Hello friends, it's Nick and the team from the Small Green Studio. We are a socially and environmentally responsible production company. Small Green Stories is a diary of our work brought to you as a regular podcast, sometimes recorded on location with clients and partners, and sometimes in the studio with guests. This podcast is for you if you're interested in hearing impactful stories and maybe you want to improve the storytelling at your own organisation. So let's get stuck in. Hello friends, it's Nick here. Today I'm out and about at ClimateTech World Congress at Kensington Olympia in London. It might be in London, but it's actually featuring people from all over the UK, including Metro mayors and the UK government. It's a place where people come together to collaborate, break down silos and overcome obstacles to driving large-scale, impactful progress towards global emissions reduction. That's what it says on the website, but from what I can see, it's a bunch of people who work in sustainability. They've got great ideas. Some are looking for funding, some are already established, some people are just looking for ways to collaborate and get on in their endeavours. So I thought it would be good to have a walk around, bump into some people, some who I know already, some who I don't, and just see what they're up to, have a quick chat and bring the conversations to you. So here we are. Elliott, lovely to be here at Innovation Zero. It's my first time here actually, but I'm really enjoying the green carpet. Do you want to tell us what you're up to here and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you very much, Nick. And the green carpet is what I first noticed when I walked in here. It's lurid, very special. So yeah, here with Ecologi, we've got a really lovely stand here and we're chatting about all things wonderful for nature and why it's a brilliant thing to fund the solutions in a big way and finding new reasons to do so. I'm also here with my 30 by 30 UK hat on, which is a non-profit to unlocking some amazing new excitement for UK nature restoration. Love to chat a little bit more about that a little bit later.
Cool, so you're actually the founder or one of the founders of Ecologi. For the uninitiated, we're actually have our own impact page and we buy impact for Ecologi as well. For the uninitiated, what's a concise way that you could explain that to people? Because I think sometimes people go, oh, isn't it just sort of offsetting? So what would you say to that?
Absolutely. So Ecologi is about just being excited with the impact that you can make with relatively small bits of money. And if we all rounded up the world's pocket change, then we'd be in a fantastic place. And so that's exactly what we're getting behind. Beautiful projects. And it's our responsibility to bring it to life. So we fund just the top projects that are worth funding. And so it's a very high bar, and the integrity just wants to shine through. So when we say we're going to plant a tree, we mean we're going to put it in the ground, we're going to keep it alive for decades to come, and so that it'll be towering above us one day soon.
Obviously, tree planting has been the sort of go-to for a lot of businesses. Oh, we plant a lot of trees. What have been some of the problems in the past with people planting trees? It doesn't always go correctly, does it? And I think there's been some notable things that have gone wrong where people have planted a whole forest and found out that it's a monoculture, it doesn't support any biodiversity. And do you think that's sort of damaged people's opinion about or actually planting trees themselves?
Absolutely, big problem because there are so many just doing things in the wrong way. You know, big countries are the worst actually, saying like we've planted 1 billion trees in 24 hours and they really just fired a load of seeds into an area that doesn't want to host a new rainforest, unsurprisingly, and then they all die. And so it's about a care and attention and love, and also about how you building this through the community that is ultimately going to be the custodians of these new wonderful rainforests or woodlands that are being created. And so with the community at its heart is the solution. And that, you know, when community-led reforestation has a very, very, very high success rate. And that's how all of our projects have been structured today. I came back from Kenya 2 years ago to see one of our largest and earliest projects. And it just brought a tear to my eye, the care that goes into this, and also the communities that are created around these new projects that are being put in the ground. It's a wonderful thing to see. But as you say, there's just probably 10 to 1 other projects which don't have the level of care and consideration. And so you do have to be selective.
I suppose when I first, I'm only 4 years into being an ethical production company, but I always felt like I was at one with the earth, and although what I was doing with my life didn't really support that. I suppose an entry level to people talking about this stuff, it is sustainability, but the more you work in it, becomes about impact, right? And positive impact versus negative impact. Yeah. And so certainly with Ecologi, it's not only about trees, is it? You've already mentioned communities. Yeah. So how have you got any examples of the impacts? Because I think I support some well digging in some areas, and then there's mangrove restoration, still kind of trees, yeah. But lots of different sort of projects that you can invest in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just everything that can deliver for both people, nature, and on a climate and carbon point of view is our real sweet spot. That's, you know, creating new wildflower meadows, and you mentioned mangroves, so important areas that were cut down, where it's protecting against flooding. We just released our impact report, which showed that for the ones that we can count, over 40,000 people are now employed to be reforesting under the projects alone that we're doing. And these are, every person belongs to a family and belongs to a community. And seeing the impact that it has on the lives, especially in the global south, is meaningful. You know, first pay packet that a woman has ever received, you know, through reforestation, for example. This is meaningful stuff. But everything else, from carbon removal through spreading biochar onto farms, enriching the soil, but also locking carbon, you know, if we can get behind it, and also if it gets others excited. This is why we're talking about trees, is because we innately connect with something as beautiful as restoring the world back to a green and more verdant future. And so this is why it's important. It's also a kind of gateway and, you know, solution where we go, oh, we can plant 100 trees, and then you might scratch the itch to say, okay, what else could we get behind? You know, could we fund the beaver reintroductions into some wonderful projects and all sorts. So I love it. I could go on forever about it, but you know, it's your way in is a tree, planting a tree, and then the afterglow gets you over to the next difficult stage.
Yeah, 100%. And certainly one of the things that I like to do in nature is just going out with my camera. And first of all, I used to live in Tottenham, and there was the Walthamstow wetlands over there. It's the first place I've seen a peregrine falcon. Wow. It's the first place I've seen a kingfisher, and I managed to photograph both of them. And yet, you know, very urban area, and so it was a real entry. Even when we had our first child, I had him strapped to my chest, and I was walking around with the camera because he wouldn't sleep. So I was like, I was going on a walk, I was keeping my little boy asleep, and I was photographing awesome nature, even like on our doorstep. So I suppose that's just finding ways to be out in nature.
Can I just say on that, you know, when you saw that kingfisher, like the effect that has on you and your family and everything is massive, and that's what I want to see happening to the UK. Was among the most nature depleted in the world. And the impact is not just biodiversity, not just carbon, but also us. You know, we need to rewild our minds into understanding like what we could have again. For example, in the Thames, there used to be dolphins swimming down the rivers. There used to be macaque monkeys swinging from our oak trees. Our concept of what wild is versus what we used to have is a huge distance, and so that's what excites me. You know, bringing nature back. You know, that's why animal reintroduction is so lovely, because you don't need to convince anyone from, for example, the global south, where nature is abundant, like everywhere looks like the Lion King, just constantly. They have an innate understanding and connection with nature and want to look after it. Whereas for us, you know, our understanding of some rolling hills with some cows on it, that's not the same. And so we're not good custodians of nature until we really see the richness that it could possibly be.
Yeah, I'm yet to see any beaver in the UK. I'm yet to see any white-tailed eagles, but I am keen. I've never seen, and it's on my list, I've never seen a red squirrel either, which, given that it's a native animal, although I did manage to photograph some marsh harriers, and I think maybe they've been introduced over in sort of Cambridgeshire and over towards Norfolk, but that was also something really, really cool to see. So whilst we're talking about nature then, do you want to give us the little pitch on 30 by 30, what your goals are and what exciting things you've got coming up?
Yes, so the 30 by 30 goal, almost everyone hasn't heard of, but it's possibly the biggest opportunity for nature we've ever seen.
Well, hopefully I can help you with that and get out
exactly,
and about a little bit.
Absolutely. So 30 by 30 is the goal of restoring nature and protecting 30% of all land and sea for nature by the year 2030. Now, 2-ish years ago, almost 200 nations said we're going to do that. What's lacking is just the awareness, the public perception, the private sector engagement, and all those trying to kind of fulfill the other areas, the kind of the niggly bits. And that's not going to happen while it doesn't have that kind of excitement and that kind of goal. And so that's what we're doing 30 by 30 UK. It's a non-profit. It's just bringing that excitement to where others are. And we've got some interesting research that we're going to be publishing very soon that, like, spoiler alert, everybody loves it, especially versus net zero by 2050. This is now. This isn't pledges. It's not international. It's not carbon neutral. There's a lot to love. And this is why we believe it's 5 extraordinary years for nature. And so what we're doing is we're working with businesses and we're saying, look, you're already trying to connect with your audiences. Have you thought about connecting with your audiences in a way that also restores local nature on your doorsteps? And so we're getting on really well with this. Me, my co-founders from former head of partnerships of RSPB and head of sustainability strategy at Unilever. We've got this amazing team where we're just now harnessing all the good that could come from, the campaigns are going out all the time. What about a campaign which happened to do something phenomenal and so wholesome? And that's what we're up to at the moment.
And any examples of, before we were just chatting about, if farmers knew that they could do something with 1% of their land, and we can make it really easy for them. Obviously there's government bits, aren't there, where if you decided not to plant the crop and fill it with trees, we'll show you how to do it. Whether that works or not is another thing, and we can come on to sort of government and whether they're supporting in the right way. What's a real sort of tangible example that you can give me about a success story from 30 by 30?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love the diversity of solutions. So I was speaking to someone 2 days ago from waste to wild, and there's 16,000 landfill sites around the UK, and they are essentially doing nothing apart from keeping a layer of soil on top of an old landfill. And so what this charity is doing is they're putting a nature reserve on top of them. That's like fantastic. We only have so many hectares in the UK, but if we can layer and stack, and it's also speaking with others, wind farms, just like that land is broadly protected to be a wind farm. What can we do in the bits in between? And then support for farmers and landowners is really here. I advise West Dorset Wilding, which is this kind of amazing coalition of about 50 odd landowners who are just kind of directing some of their agricultural into regenerative agricultural, and then finding those little pockets into rewilding where they can. And so now the total effect of that is about 4,000 hectares, which is a large amount of rural area in West Dorset now dedicated to improving biodiversity. And they are a part of a wider picture called the Big Chalk. Now this is a project that's absolutely bonkers in scale, ranging from Devon, Dorset, all the way up to Norfolk, across most of our chalk streams and limestone geological areas. The scale that we're talking about now is just wonderful, and that kind of joined up thinking, and then what's fantastic, investors are coming, startups like us are interested. We're starting to find reasons for nature to be a part of our solution, a part of our economy. It's taken a little while, but I do think things are changing now.
That's really cool. Where can people find you, either online, or are you going to be at any future events? Because obviously we're at an event now, so people won't be able to, this won't be out when people can find you, but where can they get in touch?
A little bit different. Going from the corporate events where we are at ClimateTech to a rewilding festival in Somerset, which is 6th and 7th of June. And we've teamed up with Heal Somerset, and they've got this beautiful rewilding project. Wild beavers have made it their home, and there's, butterflies abound, and you get tours, like proper wildlife tours, and like the best of the best are there talking there. And we're launching on that day to really talk about our plans, our future, like how we're going to make this an extraordinary 5 years for nature. So I'd love for anyone to come check it out. I'd just be there anyway, basically, but I hope to see some of us as well.
Great, thank you. And whilst we're on beavers, by the way, is there such a thing as wild beavers? Because when I in the UK, because I've read here and there that beavers have actually been like living in covert areas of. Is Britain so wild in places where that could have potentially happened? Nobody knew about it, because we're talking about these sort of guerrilla rewilders as well, which have
Yeah.
You know, there's some people's heroes, there's some people's, you know. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Well, it's kind of crazy to even say, but they have been illegal for hundreds of years. Who put them? Who made them illegal? I do not really understand. So they've been outlawed for such a long time. And there have been guerrilla releasings of these beavers, and so the fugitive beavers have found themselves in Hill Somerset's location and others, but their timing is good. They're fugitive no more. Now the law is that they are to be protected, and they're no longer illegal. They've been legalized. They're still under license, and so they'd need to, get their little license to be alive sort of thing, and so that's going through. So, but the future's brighter for allowing that sort of thing. But really, we don't want to stop at beavers. We want to go to lynx, wolves, wildcats, and these aren't just kind of fun-sounding animals. They're incredibly important in the whole ecosystem, because when you don't have those apex-style predators, then you have all the deer, and then when you have all the deer, then you have literally nothing else apart from grass and a bit of scrub. And so there's a lot to gain by adding that kind of beauty and diversity, and also just capturing our attentions and love and imagination and next generation kind of growing up in something better than we are at the moment.
Yeah, and certainly the holy grail for us as a storytelling agency are telling stories of animals out in the wild, anything being restored, reintroduced. That totally up for that, because as I said, I like to be out in nature. So if anybody's listening and has got a little story, a little case study that they want to tell, I'm all ears.
Sounds good. I love it.
Hi, so I'm here with Mel from Carbonology, and she's just professed to me that she also runs a podcast, and she just rocks up and has a chat. So in the spirit of us rocking up and having a chat, I'll pass over the mic to Mel. She can tell us all about Carbonology.
Great, thanks. Yes, so Carbonology are an independent accredited verification body, and they verify organisations' emissions against international standards. So a lot of organisations are looking at moving beyond just making a pledge or a commitment to net zero, and they actually have to prove what they say that they're doing. So going beyond just kind of walking the walk and talking the talk, it's okay. So where is the proof? And so that's ultimately what Carbonology does.
And what sort of companies do you work for? Do you find yourself involved mainly in one sort of area, or is there a broad spectrum? What sort of size company are looking to use your services?
Yeah, it's a broad range of organisations, typically from 20 million upwards, because typically they in turnover, yes. And that's because they're looking to get their emissions independently verified to either unlock access to green finance. So a limited level of assurance is a prerequisite if you're looking at getting a green bond or a sustainable linked loan. Also organisations that are looking at making voluntary disclosures. So if they want to get an A rating for their CDP disclosure, they need to have independent accredited verification. Or if they're looking at meeting some of the mandatory reporting requirements, such as CSRD. So obviously I know that the Stop the Clock is in action at the moment with the Omnibus, but nevertheless, there's other regulations that are coming in, like the EU Green Claims Directive. And organisations can't really afford to be in breach of the EU Green Claims Directive, because potentially they could be fined, or they could actually be banned from marketing their products or services if they're making false claims. So, yeah, verification is very topical at the moment. Yeah.
That's super interesting. From my point of view, I guess one question that springs to mind is are we all just sitting around waiting for regulation to catch up and get these larger companies compliant with a lot of these green directives? On the way over here, I was listening to the news, and there was a lot of chat about there's been no progress from the government on green claims, and there's not much for 10 or 15 years before that. Do you think that it's mainly down to regulation to get these things moving?
I think mandatory disclosures certainly play a crucial role in getting businesses to take this seriously. But it's actually those organisations that are being innovative and using this as a commercial advantage that are really benefiting from the green revolution. And you just need to look at, for example, the Financial Times published the 600 sustainability leaders in Europe. They've actually got a leaderboard now with their credentials. So it's all very public now. So it's not just about doing the right thing and being compliant from a regulatory perspective, but it's also about putting your money where your mouth is in terms of how you're growing your business and how you're encouraging your supply chain as well, and engaging all of your key stakeholders to be able to make a difference. Some of the research that I'm doing looks at some of the trends in terms of the drivers and impact as far as verification is concerned. And there was a study over 8 years that identified that the majority of the S&P 500 organisations increase their turnover by 10% if they had their emissions independently verified. And that's because they could then get more investment, demonstrates more trust, increases shareholder value, and that sort of thing. So, yes, I think mandatory regulations are inevitable. Getting to net zero by 2050 is basically, it's written into law now. It's only a matter of time that the regulations are there to support that, to actually make that happen. But in this day and age, I know there's a lot of uncertainty, but it's really the markets that are driving that shift, which is good to see.
Yeah, it's hugely interesting and encouraging. There's a lot of doom and gloom around, we're not making any progress, this, that and the other. But I do think, as you said, we will reach this tipping point where, and it's okay to be profitable while still doing green stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, a lot of people might feel guilty in some respects, but a lot of people are obviously very fearful of being seen to be greenwashing as well. So, a lot of organisations are being very, very careful, especially obviously with introduction of like the EU Green Claims Directive. But at the end of the day, economies need to grow, but sustainability has got to be the way forward. It's got to be an integral part of that growth strategy for businesses.
Thanks, Mel. I know you've got to push on. You're very busy, so lovely to meet you, and thanks for chatting to us.
Great, thanks very much, and good to meet you, Nick.
Hey, Leo, great to meet you. I'm Nick. Pleased to meet you. How you doing? Couldn't miss you guys in the lab coats and the giant spectacles.
That was the plan.
Tell us a bit about Eden Lab.
Well, I came here last year and I saw someone wearing a swimming costume, more or less, for their. I thought that stood out so brilliantly. I thought we've got to do something. So we're wearing lab coats today and little crazy glasses. We're not really scientists though, but we are really interested in how do you do experiments and tests to see how can we change people's behaviour to encourage them to make more sustainable choices. Okay. Generally.
Is it like, how do people interact with your technology?
We're not really wedded to any particular method. We're kind of using, I guess we're sort of coming at it through psychology really. Like if one of our clients is the train line. So how do you get football fans driving to Premier League games to go by train instead? And you might use the internet, you might use incentives, you might change the price. I mean, ideally you'd change the trains, but that's a bigger game. You might use partnerships, and we'll test all those different mechanisms to work out what's the way to do it. That's one part of our work. And then I guess when we get even more creative, we're thinking about the longer term, like how do companies encourage their customers to buy clean and green options in the future? And sometimes they don't have the right products yet, so we help them invent them. So for example, we work with Unilever. They've got a really interesting challenge, which I don't know if you know this, but when you do your laundry, the laundry powder is made out of fossil fuel, right? Yeah. It comes from oil. We don't have to use detergent to dissolve dirt from clothes. We could live in a world where we use microbes to eat the dirt off clothes. So imagine a future, 10 years hence, where rather than using hydrocarbons to get your clothes clean, you put them in a laundry bin and they come out a week later and they're clean and they smell nice and they're perfectly done. That's kind of how we think about how the world could be in the future.
That's fascinating.
Experiments to change how the world works, how we make decisions, what we buy, how we live.
So, what's your background? Are you the founder? How long has your company Eden Lab been around?
We're about 2.5 years old, so quite new still. Before that, I spent a lot of time in advertising and marketing, so I'm making up for it now. I like you, yeah, right. So, but I really think there's real value in people who know how to shape behaviour and shape aspiration, using those skills to reshape them in more positive ways. And I really believe that. For me, there's not been enough crossover between people who know about technical sustainability and people who know about how humans actually think and work and behave. And if you can get those two circles to intersect a bit more largely, then I think we can get somewhere interesting. But maybe the sort of marketing-y, behaviour-changey people have felt a bit guilty they were involved in evil schemes until now. But that's how we've reinvented ourselves.
That's super interesting, and that you've come from an advertising background. I guess from our point of view, we're a storytelling agency trying to do good by people and planet whilst we're doing it. How important do you think storytelling, because you've said that you don't see this marriage between the technology and the human behaviour. Is story part of that?
Hugely. I mean, and I think actually there's loads of myths persisting in culture at the moment where not good enough stories are being landed. So here's an example, right? People they really believe that heat pumps are not good for your house and your warmth and your comfort. And that might be true in some early installations that were done badly, but it's not true in general about the clean energy at a new home. Better stories need to be told that are more exciting. I remember when the internet first arrived, they used to talk about the information superhighway is coming. Do you remember that? It's going to be amazing. The stuff happening in this conference is fucking amazing. But who's getting excited outside the walls of this conference about that world coming? We need to tell way better stories, better storytellers as well. Yeah. You guys should, but also who are the faces of this thing? I really think that's absolutely bang on.
Yeah, I'd agree with you that looking around a place as big as this, Earl's Court, I don't know how many exhibitors there are here, but it's like you couldn't make up how many different industries there are here trying to have bigger positive impacts in what they do with the tech or the ideas that they have.
I think it's really exciting because people here should be really delighted that they're doing this stuff, because they're trying, rather than persisting with these old broken models. It could be at the petrochemicals conference.
Yeah. On that, you said you were here last year, and there's the absence of a big green sign with two letters on it. Anything to say about that?
About BP not being here?
Yeah.
No, I stayed out of that conversation last year, but it did seem a bit ironic.
Yeah.
People say that HSBC shouldn't be here either. I don't know. I'm generally more forgiving. I think if people are trying, we should encourage it, really.
Yeah, certainly with our client acceptance, we probably wouldn't have worked with a high street bank, but we signed up to Clean Creative so that we don't work for fossil fuels or fronted. But then, they are the areas that have the most to change, I suppose, and the resources to do it.
We haven't been put in that position, I must say, but I do wonder, for example, if you're being asked to work with VP Ventures trying to sort out some of their kind of replacements for oil, maybe that would be a thing that's worth doing. But I guess you'd have to believe that you could make an impact rather than just being used as a kind of fig leaf.
100%.
But if you thought you were making an impact, I don't know, man.
Yeah, from the way I look at it is that I have to look myself in the mirror and I have to look at my kids
and my team.
Yeah, yes, and am I making a difference, and can I justify it to myself? And I know that you've got to get to another talk, so thanks for chatting to us.
It's a real pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Fiona, lovely to bump into you too, and you're from FuturePlus. Would you like to tell us a little bit about FuturePlus?
Hi Nick, thanks for having me over. My name is Fiona. I'm head of sales with FuturePlus. We are an ESG and sustainability management and reporting tool, primarily focusing on small to medium enterprises and helping them understand where they are in their sustainability journey and where they want to go, where they want to set ambitions for the future.
Okay, so how does that? We are a small, medium enterprise. So, how does that manifest? Is it a web-based tool? Is it sessions? How would you engage with the Small Green Studio, for example, as a customer?
Perfect. Yeah. So initially, we set up an introductory call with the team. You have a dedicated sustainability executive who is essentially an account manager who is there to guide you through the whole process and be your main point of contact for the 12-month period, which is a minimum subscription period. So we do a diagnostic assessment at the beginning. This takes up to about 3 weeks to complete because you need to gather a lot of information. We can help you figure out where to find that information from and help you through that process as well. After you do the diagnostic assessment, you get a score out of 500, and these are across 5 different key themes, which are diversity and inclusion, environment, social, economic, and climate. So you get your score out of 500. This is a non-judgmental score whatsoever. It's just to simply understand where you are now. Whilst answering the questions, you will also set an ambitions for the future. So you'll set ambitions to achieve certain goals over a 3, 6, 8, 18 months or 3-year timeline. And from this, you can see where you are now. So let's say you got a score of 180 out of 500, and in 3 years' time, you want to be on 280 out of 500 or whatever it is. You also have an automatically generated report that you can share with key stakeholders from the information you have shared with us. Your sustainability advisor can also add information to that, which is focused on your business.
What sort of incentives does a company get for going through that? I mean, I'm familiar with B Corp, I'm familiar with Planet Mark, stuff like that. So these certifications, Obviously, you'd be sending it to your stakeholders, as you say. Would that be for investment? Would it be for customers to be more empowered to be buying sustainably from you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, we found multiple reasons bring businesses to us. Businesses usually want to do something like this. Number one, to get a badge that will be able to communicate with their potential clients that they are a sustainable business and that they are thinking sustainably. They also use our tool because they're looking for investment, and investors want to invest in sustainable businesses. They are also doing it because they're going through a bidding process or an RFP, and there's a field on that asking what sustainable practices they have in place. They are also using it because their supply chain or someone they're selling to is asking them, are they sustainable? And it fits into their supplier code of conduct. So there's multiple reasons to do something like this, but also the other reason is just to do something good.
Points at a hat that says "do good" on it. No, sorry, carry on.
Yeah,
Do you piggyback off any existing frameworks like GRI or anything like that? Is because I know the bigger the company, the more sort of compliance things and regulatory things you have to start to comply with. Does it all fit in? If you've attained another or reported in another way elsewhere, can it feed into that? How does it work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think just the practice of actually understanding what information you have to compile to do something like this is very helpful exercise in itself. And all of the information you're sharing with us is verified as well. And the sustainability executive will talk with you about it and ask you multiple questions and properly understand what your goals are and how you want to achieve it. The platform is also based on the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, and that has been taken into account when formulating the diagnostic assessment. Other sources of data have been taken into account, but we have tried to keep it close to the United Nations because they're not going anywhere anytime soon. But sustainability is such a massive evolving beast over time. It's really hard to understand where to get started and can be really daunting. And what we try to do is make it as easy as possible. And it's non-judgmental. It's just purely to get people in and just starting somewhere and tracking that impact and the return on investment. And we really believe that ties strongly in with business resilience overall. It's not just about sustainability or nice fluffy things. It's actually about doing good for your business as well.
What's next for you guys? What are you looking to do? Are you looking to grow? What's the main sort of lever that you're trying to pull? Is it just to get more small, for people listening, what is it you're after from them?
We just want more people to get on board with the platform, so more people using it, and we also have a Plus Carbon tool as well, which is measuring carbon reporting. We also have Future Connect, which is deep dive into your supply chain and how sustainable they are and how they uphold different value sets that you might have in your business as well. So yeah, I think our main focus is on small to medium enterprises in the UK, in hospitality, sports and financial services.
That should have been a question I asked you. What sort of markets do you play in? So thank you for clarifying that. Is there anything that you've been particularly interested to see at the InnovateZERO, this event? Anything that surprised you?
I've enjoyed meeting everyone and walking around the place and just saying hi, seeing what's going on. There's a lot of different breakout events as well. I went to a cool one yesterday after the event called People Planet Pint.
Oh yeah.
You have a pint and you talk about sustainability. It was really good. Just the overall vibe is very good and very positive.
Yeah, I actually run People Planet Pint in Reigate, so there's so that wasn't a plant, I promise. But yeah, they are all over the place now, all over the world. Fiona, thanks for having a chat and popping over, and hopefully see you again, and I will certainly check you out on FuturePlus.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Tanya, it's lovely to bump into you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, likewise. Nice to meet you. And Our business is slightly different from most of the businesses in here because we are focusing on the consumers. Because we believe that consumers can bring the quick, actionable impact. While, no offense, but a lot of B2B stuff takes more time and money to do that. I mean, my background is over 20 years in e-commerce in different things, and this is my third venture. I actually sold two businesses before. And the previous two businesses were mostly focused on money, but when I sold the second one, I had this, and I always had passion about sustainability, and I thought, okay, this time it's not only about money, the focus of it is actually creating a proper impact, but utilizing the knowledge that we had from the past. I mean, I'm originally from Ukraine. I live in the UK for 23 years. I was born in a coal mine area of Ukraine. And when you see stuff like that, it makes you wonder about many, many things. So I grew up with this kind of passion and really proud that I'm in a position to do something about it now.
Your company is called questionZERO. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Is it a tech solution? Is it more on the, you mentioned consumers.
Well, questionZERO model, I guess, if you imagine Trustpilot type model, but our rating is based on the ESG and other related sustainability data. But the whole point of it is to crunch all the complicated financial reporting data and put it in front of us as the consumers in a very easy, understandable format. We are now piloting it across a couple of voucher sites and shopping app. Surprisingly, the biggest challenge was to get data permission from the data providers, because it's like financial organizations did not want to share the data to the outside world. And even though we don't do it directly, we obviously use some of it. That was the biggest challenge. So now we have the scoring, putting it in front of the people next to the price tags and testing the reaction. I mean, the feedback is positive so far, but also the whole point of it is to increase sales for more sustainable brands. So it's like a channeling the money market towards better brands effectively.
That's really interesting. I guess my company and a lot of the companies that I work with, we're certified B Corp, so there's a sort of slightly recognizable organization behind that certification, and data is something we're constantly trying to find, trying to represent, and then show in a way that is as transparent as possible, so anybody who's questioning whether what we're saying is true is going to be able to see that. How and it's interesting to hear that you struggle to get your hands on some of that data. Is that because it's sensitive data, or is it because that's almost like the holy grail to e-commerce? And certainly you said you've got a background to e-commerce. How does can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned holy grail of e-commerce. Actually, I've got exactly the same thing from some people in Amazon as well. So it is indeed a complex process, because there is a thing like called greenwashing as well, so the brands are shy of some statements now because of anti-greenwashing directives and whatever. So we went through the route of engaging with data first, and then we come to brands and say, okay, this is what we see on you, this is what our scoring is. If everything is okay, let's promote it. If you have issues, let's talk about the data, because data is never perfect. Effectively, look at us as a data aggregator, okay? So if you're a B Corp, you get your brownie points. So we go across the whole range of certifications, obviously verify them. But consumers have attention span of a goldfish, so they won't have time to go through all of that. That's why we say, okay, let's simplify it. Let's put it out there as a data aggregator that you can potentially reference, obviously, to the whole drill down data when you can.
How much of this is sort of verifiable data? I guess what I mean by that is the data that you're using to give someone a Trustpilot style, is it a star rating or something like that?
Yeah.
Is it as deep as, we go all the way through the supply chain, or is it more around like piggybacking off of the certifications and sort of marrying them up and go, well, if they're a B Corp, they will have had to have done this, or if they are, got GRI, they will have had to have done this. If they've attained their SBTIs, for example, their sustainable business, if they've been verified, is that also part of the scoring?
It is combination. So we use data providers. For example, we use True Cost data on CO2 from S&P Global. So it's part of our methodology. So we have in-house methodology, we have University of Exeter helping us on it because they have very clever data crunching guys on it. But it's a holistic approach. So we have data, and in bigger companies, it's possible to drill down supply chain. The challenge we have is data, e-commerce, a lot of SMEs. That's why we say, okay, if the scoring doesn't look right, it's not a problem, let's talk about it. Well, we do our best efforts. We are the members of United Nations Global Compact, took the approach, it's better to start from something than from nothing. So it's a conversational process. But yes, it's a combination of actual data, verified certifications, and also newsfeed, because scandals and whatever come along, so we look at it as well.
How will a consumer see this rating from questionZERO? Will it be, is it a separate site that you would say, well, I want to buy something from this retailer and then look at it, or is it by, will it appear like in Amazon, for example, it will go, this has a sustainable feature with it? How does that work?
There are a few different ways, and again, my background is B2B2C. So consider the scoring is the consumer-facing part, but it's distributed across business-to-business platforms. So we have a capacity to give scoring to brands directly, encourage them, shout about it, make no money from your standing. Also API that we can link to effectively e-commerce platforms. And of course, our biggest sort of challenge now is to cover as many brands as possible so we can scale up this whole scoring across multi-brand retailers. And loyalty cards, some banks and stuff like that, because when you buy the product, we can link SKU code to the brand and a brand to the scoring. And then technically every transaction links to SKU, and our ambition is to cluster the e-commerce market as much as possible, but technically we have capacity to do that.
What do you need right now in your journey? Do you need more brands to come and say, we'd love to be part of that? Do you need more retailers? What's next? And what, for anybody listening, how can they get in touch and what would they need from you?
Considering we are the new company and we only got data permission in January, so it's a lot of things to go for, but I think it's twofold needs. We would encourage as many brands as possible to claim their scoring, because we have the scoring anyways, but please come to us. It's not expensive in that sense. We want adoption, we want brands to benefit from it. But of course, multi-brands retailers have the power button, isn't it? So we engage with a couple of really good businesses in here. But again, it's for their benefits. There is statistics, customers can pay more money for sustainable brands if they know they're sustainable. Talk to us and increase your basket value. It's like win-win situation. So partnerships for the goals is our goal, I guess. Yeah, I mean, sustainable e-commerce may be possible. So we hope, anyways. That's it, that's where we are.
Well, that's the mission.
It's a mission.
Well,
yes.
Tanya, thank you for speaking to us.
It's all right. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
There we go, folks. That's our little bonus episode walking around Innovation Zero. So thank you to the folks who were willing to have a little chat with me as I approached them with my little roving microphone. So that's Elliott from Ecologi and 30 by 30, Fiona from FuturePlus, Leo from Eden Lab, Mel from Carbonology, and Tanya from questionZERO. As always, you can get in touch at Do Stuff at the Small Green Studio if you'd like to have a chat or collaborate. If not, I'll see you on the next one. Ciao for now.